Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria Montefusco and I'm a lover of all things when it comes to beauty and makeup and fragrance. And today is an exciting video because I'm going to be reviewing the Mikalya and Glamlite collaboration palette. I'm really excited to review this palette. I absolutely love Glamlite's eyeshadow formulas. I think they're really good, but I will say, after I purchased and received this palette, some information has come about Mikalya, especially in regards to Jaclyn Hill's bronzer range and just some other things that made me not really a fan of hers. I was never a fan of hers to begin with. I don't have a TikTok. I was following her on Instagram just to like see what eyeshadow looks she was doing, but I never really engaged with her post. I never considered myself a fan of hers, all of that. But after all this came out, all this controversy, I'm like, you know what? I'm not a fan of her. I did not buy this palette because I was a fan of hers or anything like that. I bought the palette because I like Glamlite and I like the color story. So anyways, if you were interested in seeing me do an eye look with this palette, as well as show you some swatch comparisons and compared to other Glamlite palettes I have, talk about the formula, give a review, all of that fun stuff, then please keep on watching. So to begin with, I always prime my eyes, and recently I have been using this Glamlite Icing Primer. This primer is pretty good. It's more of like an eyeshadow base, I would say, than a primer because it does have color to it. I have this in the shade Classic Vanilla, by the way. So this is, they have a white shade and then they have this shade and they have a bunch of other shades. So this is like the lightest shade that isn't the white shade. I do like it. Do I think it works as well as my Milani primer? No, I do notice more creasing and all of that. Don't use this with glitter glue. I made that mistake. I kind of got a bunch of creasing with that, but it's good. But I like my Milani eyeshadow primer and my glitter glue better, but this is an okay substitute. And I figured since this is a Glamlite video, I'll use my Glamlite primer, you know? But I have used this palette with my Milani primer, so I can give you like a apples to apples comparison here. All right, so that's it for primer. So let's get started. I think today, since I'm wearing blue, maybe I'll go for purple and blue. That could be a lot of fun. I was maybe gonna go for green and purple, but I think maybe purple and blue. No, I think I'll go for green and purple. I think I'll do something different. So I think the first shade I'm gonna go into is called The Best Color. It's this minty matte shade right over here. I'm gonna take my Refer number 13 brush. My brushes are dirty, I'm sorry. And I'm just gonna put that in the very inner part of my crease. And then we'll blend out a purple into it. So this is just a really beautiful mint color. I love a good mint color. I love a good pastel. And Glamlite makes really great pastels, so no complaints here. I will say, I find this primer to work really well with pastels because it is, you know, it has some like color and pigment to it. I feel like pastels do pop more on this primer versus the Milani eyeshadow primer, for example. So there's like a little mini review in a review of the primer. All right, that looks good for the green. I think now I'm going to go into MJ. It's this shade right here. And this is just like a cool toned pastel-y kind of purple. And I'm gonna put that into the other part of my crease. I love doing these like two-tone crease looks. It's like one of my favorite things to do. And in my opinion, it's like an easy way to make it look like you are doing like fancy makeup. When in reality, it's not all that fancy. So I love doing these two-toned crease looks. They're just a lot of fun. And I might just take a little bit of blue, this shade called Rhodey. It's that light matte blue. I just might blend that into the green and the purple, just because I feel like that'll make a more effortless blend in the middle of the colors. So just in the very middle, just so things don't look too muddy. Perfect, so that's it for the crease. I really like how this looks. All these shades blend easily, plenty pigmented, all of that, so really happy with that. So now it's time to build out my outer corner. I'm going to go into pot 2, which is this matte lighter purple on the second to last row. I assume it's spelled P-H-A-T because Mikalya is from Boston. My Boston accent is horrible. I'm sorry about that. And I'm gonna put this on the outer corner. This shade does have a lot of kick up, just letting you know, so definitely tap off your brush before you apply this on your face. Also, since these shadows tend to be really colorful in this palette, you may want to do your eyes before your face like I am doing today. Just a suggestion, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. Oh, and by the way, I'm using a Refer No. 1 brush for this. And I'm going to blend that out with a Refer No. 27. Just fluffing it out. I'm going to take that same Refer No. 1 brush. I'm going to go a tiny bit into Frisky, which is that dark purple on the bottom row. And I'm going to tap it in it ever so slightly, just to darken the very outer corner ever so slightly. That's all I'm looking to do. So there we go. There is the outer corner as well. So like I said, I do not use a glitter glue with this primer. It turns into a creasy mess and we're not looking for that today. I'm gonna take a little bit of Audrey, which is this dark blue on the bottom row. I'm gonna put that in the very middle of my eye. Not too much. As you can see, this metallic formula is very glittery, which I like. I like a lot of sparkle and shine, but it is different from Glamlite's previous metallic formula. And then I'm gonna go into Naz, which is this shade in the second row, or actually third row, excuse me. And this shade is kind of hard to explain. It's like a purpley, bluey, duochrome-y kind of shade. I'm just gonna put that towards the inner part of my lid and blend that into the blue. And then I'm going to take Manifest, which is this shade in the second row. It's like a purpley, periwinkly, but a little bit dusty kind of shade. It's very unique. And I'm gonna blend that in the middle of the two shades I just put down on my eye. Just a little bit, not too much. So there is the eye look. I am going to apply the rest of my makeup. So I'm going to apply concealer, blush, highlight, all of that fun stuff. I'm not wearing foundation right now, just letting you all know because of my nose piercing, because you're not supposed to put any makeup on your nose. So because of that, I'm just going foundation free pretty much. So I'm just gonna put everything else on my face. Then we'll get into inner corner, lower lash line, all of that. And then I will start doing some swatch comparisons and and also tell you all my thoughts about this palette, because I've used this palette quite a few times. I actually only had this palette to use when I was at the lake house for a week after I came back from New York. So I have a lot of thoughts. All right, so I am back from doing the rest of my makeup, and now it's time for the lower lash line and the inner corner. So I think for the lower lash line, I'm gonna reflect what I have going on my top. So I think I'm gonna start with MJ towards the outer part of my eye and then blend it into the best color, which is that green, just to reflect what I have going on in my crease. So I think that would be fun. So I'm gonna go in with my Refer No. 14 into MJ, that light pastel-y purple. Just gonna dust that onto the lower lash line. And now I'm gonna go into the best color, which is that minty green. And I'm just gonna pack that on to the lower lash line as well. Beautiful. So now I'm gonna go back into Naz, which is that shade that I put in the very inner part of my lid. And I'm gonna use that as my inner corner shade today. Just like a purpley, goldy kind of duochrome situation. All right, so that is it for the eyes. I think this is my favorite eye look I have ever done with this palette. So now I want to give you all my thoughts on the Mikalya and Glamlite palette. So overall, the mattes in here are the same Glamlite mattes that we all know and love if you've ever tried Glamlite before. They are plenty pigmented, they blend out beautifully. I mean, purples especially are really hard to formulate, and there's, you know, 3 purple mattes in here, and I use all 3 of them today, and I've used them before, and they all just look really beautiful on the lids. They're not patchy, they blend out really nicely. They're just really amazing purple mattes, and I feel like all the mattes in this palette are really, really nice quality. Just the same Glamlite mattes that I'm familiar with and the same Glamlite matte formula that I love. Now the metallics, that's where it really differs. So the metallics in this palette are a different formula than the Cake palette and the Ice Cream Dream palette, which are the other 2 Glamlite palettes that I own. The Cake palette and the Ice Cream Dream palette both have, I believe, the same metallic formula, where it's just really smooth and creamy and nice, but doesn't have like these glittery particles that this formula has. I mean, you look at my eyes right now with the Mikalya formula, and it's just like it's the old Glamlite glitter, or not glitter, the old Glamlite shimmer formula stepped up a notch. Because it has these like shimmery, glittery particles in it. I just feel like it's more intense on the eyes, and I personally like this formula better. I still love Glamlite's old metallic formula. Don't get me wrong. They are beautiful, they are creamy, they are pigmented, they look stunning on the eyes. But I personally prefer this more shimmery, glittery kind of finish. I think it's a bit more special than what you find in like mainstream eyeshadow palettes, and it's just what I prefer. But I feel like the texture is the same between the 2 metallic formulas. They're both that more like wet feeling metallic. They wear the same on my eyes. They are both the same amount of pigmented. It's really just, I feel like the one difference between these 2 formulas is the Mikalya formula has these shimmery, glittery particles that really just makes the eyes look multi-dimensional, while the old formulas do not have that. But I still think they're both beautiful metallic formulas. I just really hope that Glamlite continues down this train, because this is the kind of look that I personally prefer, but you all may have different thoughts, and that is perfectly fine. So with that is my review. I will pop up pictures of like previous looks that I've done with this palette. I've done a lot of looks with this palette. I've used every single shade in this palette, and I like every single shade in this palette. I don't think there's any duds. So with that is my review, and now I'm going to do a few swatch comparisons between the Mikalya palette, the Cake palette, and the Ice Cream Dream palette from Glamlite. These are the only 3 Glamlite palettes I own. So here's the Mikalya palette and the Ice Cream Dream palette held side by side or up and down. I hope you can see those. It's kind of hard to like balance it, woo. But there are a few similarities between these 2 palettes. I would say that the matte browns in these palettes, the matte dark browns, are very different. Chocolate, which is in the Ice Cream Dream, that is very much a warm toned, like caramely dark brown, while Willow is definitely darker, a bit cooler toned brown. So those are definitely different. I would say Pumpkin, which is the orange from the Ice Cream Dream, and Buffalo Chicken are a bit similar. Buffalo Chicken is a bit more like cool toned orange, and I mean as cool tones as an orange can be, and then Pumpkin is a bit more like warm toned orange. So the Mikalya palette swatch on the top, and then the Ice Cream Dream swatch on the bottom. So I feel like those are different, similar, but different. So next I want to compare Butter Pecan and Simba. So Butter Pecan is this shade on my pointer finger, and Simba is this shade. So Butter Pecan is from the Ice Cream Dream, and Simba is from the Mikalya palette. So I will swatch Mikalya first. So if you look at the 2 shades, I would say that Simba is more Yeah, it's more cooler tone and a little bit darker, and Butter Pecan is warmer and not as dark, so definitely not dupes. Similar, not dupes. So I want to compare Salted Caramel and Accent. Salted Caramel is on my pointed finger from the Ice Cream Dream. Accent is on my middle finger. Again, they're similar, but not the same. So Salted Caramel's at the top, and then Accent on the bottom. Salted Caramel is definitely more cooler toned and darker brown, and then Accent is warmer toned. So Taro from the Ice Cream Dream and New Beige from Mikalya. These are again similar. They're similar depths of purple, but the Mikalya one's on the bottom and the Ice Cream Dream's on the top. Ice Cream Dream is definitely a warmer toned purple, and the Mikalya is a cooler tone, but they are similar depths of purple. Actually, I think I'll also swatch Portuguese. I think that's how that's pronounced, from the Mikalya, to see how that compares. Yeah, Mikalya is definitely darker and cooler toned again versus the Ice Cream Dream, so not similar. I want to compare the two pink metallics. So the Ice Cream Dream's on my pointer finger, Mikalya's on my middle finger. So Ice Cream Dream, which is on the top, is definitely darker pink, and Mikalya is definitely a lighter pink. So again, not dupes. I don't think there's really any dupes between these two palettes, to be honest, but there are similar shades. I'll compare the two lavender mattes now. So Ice Cream Dream's on the top, Mikalya's on the bottom. These are very, very similar. They may look the same on the eyes, but they are not dupes. So the Ice Cream Dream is again a little bit warmer toned, a bit more pink leaning. Mikalya is definitely a bit more cooler toned purple and a little bit darker, ever so slightly darker. And I think these are the last two similar shades in the palettes. So I have Bubblegum on my pointer finger and Iconic on my middle. Let's swatch these. So Bubblegum's on the top. That is definitely lighter hot pink, while Iconic is definitely a darker hot pink, so not dupes. And so those are the similar shades that I see between the Ice Cream Dream and the Mikalya. Again, not really any dupes at all. I feel like they just have different tones, different depths, that kind of thing. There are a lot of similar shades. I feel like these two palettes would work really, really well together, but there's not really any dupes. Some of the shades may look similar on the eyes, but again, I think if you own one of these palettes, it's not redundant to own the other, so I feel like that is a good thing, and they pair really nicely together. So that is the Ice Cream Dream. Now let's look at the Cake palette, see if there's any similar shades in there. So in case you all are not aware, this is what the Cake palette looks like. This was my first ever Glamlite palette. I love it. So I'm going to look in here really quickly, see if there's any similar shades that we can swatch. Let's do the matte yellows. I'm curious to see what they look like. Oh wow, these are very different. So the Cake palette's on my pointer finger, Mikalya's on my middle. The Cake palette definitely is more of like a mustardy, and it's not as intense, while the Mikalya is definitely a brighter yellow. So the Cake palette's on the top and the Mikalya's on the bottom. These are very different matte yellows. Again, I think you could make them look similar on the eyes, but it seems like the Mikalya is a lot more pigmented than Pineapple is from the Cake palette. So Pineapple's on the top, Handy's on the bottom. So now I want to compare Lavender from the Cake palette and Immaculate from Mikalya. Again, these are really different. So Cake palette's on the top, Mikalya's on the bottom. Cake palette is definitely cooler toned, and it's also just a different metallic formula between both the Ice Cream Dream and the Cake, and then to the Mikalya. So the Ice Cream Dream and the Cake palette, as I mentioned, not as glittery, not as sparkly. The Mikalya has a lot more sparkle. So A, it's just a different formula, so keep that in mind. And B, the Cake palette is definitely a bit cooler toned, Mikalya is a bit warmer toned. They are similar depths, but not the same. So next we have Blueberry from the Cake and New Beige from Mikalya. So Blueberry and then New Beige. So those are swatched on the bottom of my hand, with Blueberry on the top and New Beige on the bottom. Blueberry from the Cake palette, a bit darker purple, and then also a bit cooler toned. And then New Beige, I feel like is a bit more pink leading purple and also a bit lighter. So not dupes, but probably look a bit similar on the eyes. So next we have Ube from the Cake palette, MJ from Mikalya. These are very different lavenders. So Ube is definitely darker and a bit warmer toned, and MJ is lighter and cooler toned. So very different lavenders. And then I want to swatch Purple Frost from the Cake palette compared to Pot 2 and Frisky from Mikalya. So Mikalya is on my middle finger and ring finger. So let's swatch. So Purple Frost is on the top, Pot 2 is in the middle, Frisky's on the bottom. So the last two shades are from the Mikalya palette. Pot 2 and Purple Frost are not similar at all, but I would say Purple Frost and Frisky are pretty much dupes. Purple Frost is probably a little bit darker, maybe a bit more purpley, while Frisky looks a bit more reddishy purple, and maybe a little bit lighter, but they're pretty much dupes. And by the way, these shades will leave a stain on your hands. My hands pretty much stained pink, but because I'm swatching so many purple shadows, I would expect that, so I'm not mad about it. It's just something to note. So, and my fingers are stained too. So next, let's swatch Cinnamon from the Cake palette. This is just a metallic brown. I think I'm gonna swatch What's Poppin' and Accent to see if there's any similar ones. So Cinnamon doesn't have any dupes. I would say What's Poppin', which is in the middle, is definitely not similar at all. Cinnamon's more of a warm toned brown. I feel like What's Poppin' is very much like a greeny, yellowy, like dirty brown. Accent is a bit similar, but Accent's more orangey, and Cinnamon is just more like pure brown. Cinnamon's also more like a sheerish topper kind of formula, while the other two are more intense. So definitely no dupes in there for Cinnamon. And I think the last shade I'm gonna swatch is Chocolate from the Cake palette. I'm gonna compare it to Willow from the Mikalya. These are very different, like I assumed they would be. So Chocolate's on the top, Willow's on the bottom. Chocolate, warm toned, dark brown. Willow, cool toned, darker brown. So again, not dupes at all. So what I think we learned here today is that the Mikalya palette would pair really nicely with both the Cake and the Ice Cream Dream, but there's not many dupes at all. I would say maybe a few, like 1 or 2 or 3, and then there's some similar shades that may look similar or the same on the eyelids, but there's also not too many of those as well. So I feel like if you either have the Cake palette, the Ice Cream Dream, or both like I do, this will not be redundant in your collection, your Glamlite collection. So with that, I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope if you have this palette that you like it as well. I'm sorry this video is a bit late. I was on vacation, so I got this palette when I was on vacation. I didn't get it to me, it came to the house and I wasn't home. And then also I went to the lake house and didn't film when I was there the following week. So this is late, I'm sorry, but I hope you like this video even though it's late. If you do like this video, please like this video. It helps out with the YouTube algorithm. If you like me, please subscribe. I've been posting 3 times a week about fragrance, beauty, all that fun stuff, and makeup, so please keep on watching my channel if you want to. And if you have anything to comment down below about any of these palettes, or my thoughts on Glamlite, anything like that, please let me know down in the comments. More than happy to answer your questions, chat with you, all of that. So with that, thank you for spending a little part of your day with me, and I will see you all next time. Bye!